Hello and welcome along to the second video in my Epic Park series. If you didn't see the first one, the concept is simple. I'm trying to build a massive, super realistic park in Rollercoaster Tycoon, hence Epic Park. The idea is this is going to be hyper realistic, a park very similar to one that you or I may go to for a fun day out. So in the first video I built the entrance to the park, the first big roller coaster, the wooden coaster you can see in the corner of the screen right now, and a Junior Wonderland themed area. And I left it with excavating this big area near the front of the park, which was to be a mine themed area. Now I've skipped ahead a little bit and you can see I've got a mine train coaster in place. I'll show you that coaster later on in the video. What I'm building alongside it is a river rapids ride. Now, these always tend to go quite well, in my opinion, with the mine train theming. So what I've got is in the larger area of this former mine area, which is what the theme of this part of my Epic Park is going to be, I've got the coaster, but to the side of it I'm going to have the first water ride, which is the river rapids, which is going to sort of wrap around the inside of the mine train a little bit, as well as dipping in and out of being underground. Now, I've built that really quickly and played through that quickly, and I'll show you the ride properly when I come to test it. I'm just having to rearrange there the mine train coaster because I put the station of the rapids one square too close to where I wanted it to be in relation to the mine train coaster, simply to allow the entrance and exit path to exist for the river rapids. So with the river rapids, as you can see, there's almost something going on every square. So it's either turning, going down, climbing back up, or it's got a whirlpool or a rapids or a waterfall, because that's really the way you have to build the river rapids. Just having straight section of water doesn't really do the job for getting yourself a good excitement rating. You will also just about be able to see there it is, the on-ride photo section for the river rapids. Part of this being an ultra realistic park is that I'm charging the entry fee. So in Rollercoaster Tycoon, if you want to make money, you charge per ride, but I want this to be super realistic. So like most theme parks you or I may attend, it's an entrance fee for the guests, meaning things like that on-ride photo section are really important to be able to encourage guests to part with more of their cash as they make their way around the park. So I've got my two key rides in for this mine themed area, and as you can see, I'm adding lots and lots of mine theming. I really want to go to town with this scenery and make sure that riders on both rides are seeing lots of mine theme. They know they're in the mining area. And of course, this is all going to help with the excitement rating of the rides as well. So I built the bigger pieces of mine scenery first in whatever gaps were left for them to fit. So for this, I very much built the rides, and now I'm adding the scenery. Sometimes you might build the scenery first and then have the rides wrap around it, not in this case. So now I've got those bigger bits of scenery in place. I'm just filling it up with single square pieces and even smaller pieces than that. And then I'm going to remove the grass and replace it with this sort of rough rock area, again to feed into the mining theme, and make sure that we've got non-rocked walls. So we've got these sort of wooden walls around the mine area. So everything fits in with this mining theme that I've gone for. So there it is. I'm quite happy with how that looks with the two rides, with all the theming I've got. I'm actually really pleased with this mining area. It's quite small, it's only two rides, but I think it really does look realistic. So my next job, and I'm going to click my fingers there and jump ahead, is to build the station, because the station platforms already have the mine theming on them, but what I wanted to do is build a station building. So as you can see, I've jumped ahead in the edit there because it is a little bit painstaking, I find, doing those sort of buildings on Rollercoaster Tycoon. You didn't need to watch me build it, so I've jumped ahead to the point where the queue and station building is made for the river rapids, and I'm just putting some more scenery around the land so that as guests start to walk towards these rides, they're really getting a sense for the mine theming. So everything fits in with these two rides. And so the last little step of that is just around these queues to make sure that guests are seeing these bits of scenery, just like if you went to a theme park and went on a mine themed ride, you would expect, or any themed ride, you would expect to see related scenery in the queue. So that's what I'm putting in place here, and I'm trying to make it not a mine themed roller coaster and a mine themed rapids, but a mine themed area of the park. but I'm pretty happy with it. So my last step is to add some shops and stalls. Now, I mentioned about the fact that guests pay an entry fee for this park. They're not paying per ride. So in theory, once they've entered the park, they never need to part with another penny. Again, I want to encourage them to do so, so I'm going to make sure there's plenty of opportunities for them to purchase souvenirs and that nobody is hungry or thirsty without having so many stalls that they start to lose money. So I built the hat themed stand there partly because the building itself fits in, I think, quite nicely with the mine theming. It's a wooden building basically where people can come and get their mine hats, and so that's going to be the souvenir stall for the mine area. So there it is, there's the mine area, there's the main park and the junior land, and what I'm going to do is come to the other side now of the junior park and start spacing that out. I'm a little bit aware that even though I gave myself a large maximum loan amount in the scenario editor when I built this park, I am going to need to get the park open to start earning some money fairly soon, because it's quite expensive building all this scenery, doing this landscaping and building these big coasters. So I'm going to get Mango Muncher in because I really like this ride. I think it is a perfect junior coaster. I probably couldn't build a better one myself for meeting the statistic requirements, being a good junior coaster that's very, very popular. I found whichever park I build this in, whatever the guests like in terms of gentle rides or more thrilling rides, Mango Muncher's always a hit. So I built that one in there, and I'm just going to connect it to the rest of the park now. And as you can see, I keep going back in to extend that loan amount. So there we are, there's an overview of the park itself. We've got the mine themed area over there, which I built today. The junior wonderland themed, you could see in the bottom right, I built in the first episode. Go back to check that out if you've not already seen it. What do you think of this? I think this is a pretty cool mine area, and I'm really tempted to test the coaster, but I know once I do, it's going to start costing me money to run. So I'm just going to leave that for the moment. So there's the park entrance, which I hope you'll agree is quite realistic. Lots of flowers, some water fountains, you know, a pretty happy theme. But I'm noticing some of those plants are starting to lose their colour. They're going to need a handyman just to keep them alive and mow any grass around there, because when I open this park, the last thing I want is dead plants and people greeted by plants which have just lost all their colour, all their happiness. We want them to come in and be impressed right away with the scenery. I'm going to get a mechanic in as well, in fact a couple of mechanics, because I'm getting close to the point where I want to start opening the park, but these rides are going to need inspecting, because as you can see they are all closed now. But now I'm going to start these test runs, because we are at a point where we can open the park at least for these few rides. What have I got there? 9 or 10 rides in place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I think that's 9 rides, so we can start to get the park open. So what I'm doing, I'm just going through each ride individually, tailoring the settings for maximum throughput, so we don't need to be wasting time with slow lift hill chain speed, so we get that to the maximum. The roller coasters themselves, now if this was a park where every ride was charging an entrance fee for that ride, I would set it to 10-minute inspection intervals and have more mechanics, but it's not. So having rides always permanently open isn't as big a priority because they're not making money for me anyway. But what I will do is for the higher ticket rides, or the ones which have on-ride photo sections with them, I will get them on 10-minute intervals because they are making me money through those on-ride photo sections. Now I can't open the monorail because it's incomplete. You can just see at the top of the screen it's a bit of track. What I did in the first episode was build the station, build the opening monorail station, so that we can start to weave that track around the park as the park gets bigger. But right now there's nowhere for that monorail to take guests to anyway. So as you can see, adjusting the minimum maximum waiting time on my rides, getting the music playing on them as well, and as I mentioned, 10-minute intervals for the big ticket rides because they're going to be earning money hopefully through the on-ride photo section. So we want to make sure we're getting as many guests as we can on those rides and that they're enjoying the ride and purchasing that photo as they get off. So I'm going to go through and just adjust. Sorry, I will say that again. I'm going to go through now and just adjust the pricing on my shops and stalls. I've got 5 of them at the moment. Toilets, this is where I might stray away from being too realistic, because in a normal park, when you've paid an entry fee, you wouldn't expect to have to pay every time you go to the toilets. But in Rollercoaster Tycoon, they do cost £49 per hour to run, and guests don't usually mind paying 10 pence, 20 pence to go into the toilet, and that just helps alleviate those ride running costs. So that's what I was doing there. So there you can see the jellycopters running, the mini helicopters running around that junior area, and there is my Mine Train coaster and rapids in action. And I've opened the park, and you can see the first guests are starting to come through. So I just wanted to take a look at how much money they've got in their pocket when they arrive, because that's going to help me deduce how much can I actually charge for an entry fee. Not so much now when the park is quiet, but once this whole park land that you're seeing there is filled with rides, what is the most I can charge for an entry fee? And that's dictated by how much the guests turn up with in their pocket, because if they're only turning up with £40 in their pockets and I charge £45 for entry fee, they're going to get to the door and walk away. I don't want that to happen. I want to take that £40 off them and get them into the park. They'll be out of cash, so they'll soon have their fun, leave, and a new guest will come, but I'll have got that money from them. So as I was just explaining that, I'm just adding some seating areas and some litter bins, trash cans around the park, and as you can see, I'm keeping them in theme with the area. So here, they're not quite mine themed bins, but they're as close as I can get within the options on Rollercoaster Tycoon. Remember, I'm playing Rollercoaster Tycoon Classic here and not the open RCT2 game, which does have a lot more flexibility from the various mods which have been done to it. So we're going to need a few more handyman. What I'm going to do is make sure I've got a handyman, at least one for each themed area, and what I'm going to do is just give them probably about 10 squares there to patrol. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This guy's only actually got 5, but we'll get him around the back of the exit there to the wooden coaster, because that's probably going to be an area where we're going to need those handymen because of the nausea rating of the rides. So I'm just going through and making sure each area is well patrolled by handymen, and even though some of this looks like they are overlapping in areas, sometimes a handyman might not be able to access part of his area because he's been cut off by his work area. I don't think that made much sense, did it? But I hope you're with me. So here we go, we've got 40 guests in the park, and I'm just trying to get an idea for what they're saying, what they're thinking, which rides are going to be popular and which ones maybe aren't the best, because that's going to give me an idea of what to carry on building. But in reality, what I want is a park with a real good mixture of thrill rides, of gentle rides, and of roller coasters. Now, I've highlighted Andy S there because he was my very first guest through the park, so I'm curious just to follow his journey around the park, see what he's doing, see how long he stays, see what he thinks of everything. He's kind of like my secret shopper, my test customer, to get an idea of what guests are thinking, but also just because it's kind of fun to see what the guest is thinking of the park that I've built. But now I'm pretty happy with what I've got so far, so just as I check on the finances and see some money finally coming into the park, I can actually repay a little bit of the loan, which is going to be useful as I continue to build more areas. I'm going to need this revenue coming in to be able to continue to expand the park. The guests themselves seem fairly content with everything, but there are only 66 of them now. So I think my next point of call is to expand the park around that Mango Munch area. So I just keep an eye on those mini helicopters because of that long queue we've got at the back of the station there. So I'm just going to adjust the maximum waiting time to make sure we've not got the cars staying there for too long and having riders basically stuck at the back of the ride waiting to get off after their ride is finished. So hopefully that will solve that problem for me. So there we are, we can see as we speed the game up that cars are now coming in and out of the station that little bit quicker, and hopefully we'll get rid of that little queue at the back of the station. Yeah, there we go, it's getting shorter and shorter, so that's good. And a little bit more money can be paid back. Oh, there's my first guest, Andy S, who I'm tracking around the park. He's gone on twist one. He's fairly content at the moment, but I hope he'll start having a better time. So in this episode, you've seen me build the river rapids. I'm very happy with those stats, 5.8 on the excitement. The mine train coaster, high on the intensity, but very high on the excitement. So I'm really pleased with that as well. I'm pleased with the overall look of that mine area, feeding into the main park itself with that sort of very floral entrance, the junior area to the side. Mine train, the mini helicopter, sort of that little problem at the back of the station. Something for me to sort out, but for now, thank you for joining me for this second episode of my Epic Park videos. I do hope you'll join me again.